Hello and welcome to Connect, the weekly podcast for the California MBA, featuring one-on-one interviews with movers and shakers in the industry. I'm Susan Milazzo, CEO of the California MBA, and I'm very happy that you could join us today. Before I get to today's guest, I'd like to thank our 2023 President's Council sponsors. These are a group of companies that have provided a tremendous amount of financial support for our association, in large part to help support our mission of representing the real estate finance industry before the California State Legislature and our regulators. Advocacy is the cornerstone of what we do at the California MBA, and our President's Council sponsors are a big financial resource for us to continue that. So I'd like to thank our 2023 President's Council sponsors, which include AmeriHome, Arch MI, Consolidated Analytics, Funding Shield, Guild Mortgage, Accelerate, Rocket Mortgage, and Western Alliance Bank. Thank you all so much for your support in 2023. And with that, it brings me to today's guest. I'm very happy to welcome Melissa Grindel from ActiveComply. Melissa, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. Happy to be labeled a mover and a shaker. Very exciting news for me.
See, that's you. That's you. We were just talking earlier. It's like, I can't believe I haven't had you on Connect yet. So I'm very happy that it worked out that you could join us today.
Yeah, worked out great.
So I'd love to get started with a little background on how people got into this crazy industry. So tell me what brought you into the mortgage industry.
Yeah, it's unique. I don't think we ever meet anybody who says, in kindergarten, I just can't wait to be a loan officer in the mortgage industry. You don't often meet those people who have a lifelong dream, and somehow we all end up in here. When I was out of high school, I actually uniquely got a scholarship from the unemployment office to get a technical degree as a paralegal. And so I didn't want to pass it up. And so I got that technical degree, and I decided to pursue my bachelor's degree in business. And so at that time, I looked at the college job board, and available was a position that was perfect timing for me, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at a mortgage lender in my hometown, doing mailing room items. And so I thought that would work out perfect. And during orientation at that mortgage lender, we did have legal and compliance come in during orientation. And so, after they were done with their spiel, I popped out and I said, hey, you don't know me. I do have a background in paralegal studies. If you happen to need some additional support, feel free to reach out. And then I got scooped up out of the mailroom 4 months later and worked in the legal and compliance department for a couple of years, doing a bunch of different task-based items and regulatory audits and fair lending items. And then I migrated over to ActiveComply to work on the vendor side and see how other lenders do it across our industry. So kind of a unique transition within the space.
Yeah, and you definitely knew what was interesting to you in the industry, so that's good. You kind of figured out that the compliance angle is something that caught your eye.
Absolutely, had some tools in my belt that I felt could be of use, and they aligned really well. We're so regulated here. Legal studies degrees seem to come in handy.
Most definitely, it's an incredibly regulated industry, as we all know. So kind of brings me to my next question. 2023, very challenging year. My guess is that loan officers are getting a little creative on how they are reaching out to get their market share. But we want to make sure that, lenders are paying attention to compliance issues as well. So what are some of the top issues lenders should be monitoring for their loan officers, making sure that they're compliant with social media outreach?
Yeah, this has been a unique year and a half, and we have at ActiveComply seen some corners being cut and some new trends emerging that maybe your regulator would frown upon. For a lot of lenders, what they're struggling with is the pop-up of new social media platforms. What do they allow? What are some of the drawbacks of it? How could they possibly monitor it? We've seen a lot of resistance from mortgage lenders when it comes to the adoption of like TikTok. But we're seeing a lot of, especially those newer loan officers, finding a home and a space in TikTok where they can make use of that short form video content. So it's been somewhat of a struggle of our policy doesn't allow these types of platforms. How do we possibly get to that space where we would allow it with monitoring tools such as ActiveComply in place? But for the time being, a lot of, especially banks and credit unions, have a difficulty accepting some of those newer, scarier platforms. We like to say that, compliance doesn't have to be a no. It can definitely be a path forward, a sales enablement tool if you do it the right way. We're also seeing a lot of loan officers make use of what we would call like scenario advertising, where they give a scenario of how you as a first-time home buyer might be able to get into the home of your dreams for less than what you're paying in rent today. And the scenario parameters aren't necessarily what would work for everybody out there, especially like the vast majority of the population. They're the most unique scenario parameters maybe you would have seen, which falls within like a UDAP deceptive advertising parameters. So that's something to keep in mind, is if you're going to be doing scenario advertising, make sure that that's true for the vast majority of borrowers out there that you serve today.
Right. So much to pay attention to with that. It's such a push-pull, right? It's like you want to get out there and get in front of those potential buyers, but you have to make sure that, we're following all the regulations around that, around lending. So that said, how does ActiveComply help loan originators make the most of their social media campaigns while staying compliant, kind of, in that space?
So what we've seen, especially for banks and credit unions, is a reluctancy not only for the use of TikTok, like I mentioned earlier, but just social media in general. They might allow Facebook or LinkedIn, and that's it. And we know that that's not necessarily where, especially first-time home buyers are in the social media demographic market. And we know that Instagram and TikTok and some of those other platforms are really what should be leveraged most today to reach that first-time home buyer market. We know that a lot of the other demographics on Facebook and LinkedIn and the like probably already have a home and have a really awesome refinance rate that's locked in. And so first-time home buyers are certainly the focus, I think, for a lot of social media campaigns today. So with ActiveComply, generally what we do as part of our onboarding process is we partner with the marketing and compliance team to say, here's what we're seeing on the marketing level. Here's how you can enable your sales team to get out there and use these platforms. Here are the really key pitfalls that you're going to want to be on the lookout for. Here's what your regulator's going to ask you for when it comes to the social media portion of your audit. So we make sure that those departments feel comfortable with the use of social media, and that gives sales team and loan officer members the ability to go out there and make use of this really free, great marketing tool that maybe they didn't have access to before.
That's great. That's a wonderful tool. Then they know when they're using that they're not worried about, am I outside of the lines? I'm following the rules and still out there doing the marketing that I need to be successful.
Yeah, forgiveness versus permission. We don't have to have that type of dynamic. Instead, we can get ahead of that and make sure that everybody feels successful.
One of my favorite lines, by the way, always asking for forgiveness.
I'm in compliance, so I definitely fall on one side of that coin.
I love when you say compliance isn't always a no, because it's a no.
Always. Always. We don't want to always be a no, but it's a yes, but only if we do X, Y, and Z. We want you to get there on social media, but we also want you to keep your license. Here's how.
Right, exactly. So we talked earlier, 23 for sure, the most challenging year that the mortgage industry has seen in a while, but I'm seeing a lot of posts from ActiveComply that your company's growing, which is congratulations. That's incredible and good for you. I'm interested though, how do you find like the right corporate culture fit? I know you, I know Blake, I know a few people from ActiveComply, and there's definitely a culture there. So how do you find those right people, or what do you look for?
That's such a unique question. We like to think of ourselves as a lean, mean startup, right? And so if we're taking a look at bringing on new hires, it's an incredible investment for us because every team member here really has to count towards making our growth possible. And so as part of that process, we value culture and that interdepartmental connection really highly. And so during our evaluation process of potential candidates, we might spend a little bit more time than a typical organization might. We might get into like 3-4 interviews. We might start bringing in additional departments who wouldn't work directly with this person at every single point in junction, but might, go to conferences together. How do you interact? Do you feel like you got a good vibe from this person? Do you think that they would be a great addition to our team? And so we bring in a lot of different stakeholders. Our co-founders are fairly involved and do want to meet with our new hires when they come on board. And so we make it a point to dedicate time and resources to whoever that person might be coming on board. We are hiring an additional sales team member, an additional operations team member. and an additional developer at this time. So it's really cool to see the expansion as we prep for 2024.
It is. That's great. I mean, like I say, congratulations. Definitely be poised for the return of a strong market here we're all hoping for in the next several months.
This is the time to invest. It doesn't really feel like it for everybody. I know it's sometimes a struggle, but this is the time to invest in making your product better and your existing clients happier so that you can do that tremendous expansion in the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the time to be looking at all that. So, you know, with the market downturn, are you seeing more lenders looking to consultants to help, you know, their compliant, maybe in-house compliance team stay ahead of the ever-changing rules that are, you know, constantly passed across the country?
We definitely have seen that. We've seen a lot of transitions from existing lender partners and from what we've heard about in the space. We've seen the rise of what was previously unknown to me, the concept of a fractional compliance officer, a fractional chief marketing officer of some sort. We have seen a number of compliance firms be brought into the loop more so than they have before, just because existing lender partners don't have the manpower or the human resources that they did prior to some of the budgetary cuts. It is somewhat tricky though, because so much of being in compliance in our industry is having a really good understanding of the particular institution's product offerings. What do we offer? What don't we offer? Do we do pre-approvals or pre-qualifications? Those are not the same thing. Those are not interchangeable terms. Having a good understanding of the risk tolerance level where the executive team would want to put their foot down, what the compliance culture is within an organization. So we're seeing a rise in that for sure. It does come with caveats and it is a little bit tricky. You're gonna have to invest time and really meet with those consultants and fractional C-suite executives to make sure that they have a really good understanding so they can do their job correctly. We're also seeing an increased interest in technology. You know, if I don't have the manpower to do something that I used to do with 2 team members, how can I leverage technology instead to make the most of the human capital that I have today?
Great. Yeah, that's definitely another, you know, I think pivot that some companies are looking to make in this market. So good information. I can't believe it, but we are just a few weeks away really from the end of 2024. That New Year is fast approaching. Love to hear what's up next for ActiveComply in the new year.
Oh yeah, so many know us in the industry for our social media monitoring software. That's certainly our flagship product, and it's something that we've honed in and excelled at. We had heard this year from quite a few of our lender partners that there seemed to be a gap in the industry for website monitoring, being able to find loan officer custom websites, make sure those are up to regulatory snuff, being able to automatically archive that content, things like that. And so we heard them and we partnered with some of our evangelist clients to launch a new product, which we're calling Web Compass. So we've just started to launch that into the market this year, and we think we're going to do a full launch commercially in 2024. It's going to include not only hallmarks of regulatory compliance like we see in the social media tool today, but now also ADA compliance, SEO scoring, bad link identification. So there's gonna be a lot more marketing and IT stakeholders may be involved in this program as well. So we're really excited to bring that to the table.
That's a great product, definitely needed in the industry. Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you to our clients for making time to tell us about what they need. You know, we're happy to be problem solvers where we can.
Yeah, that's a great way to start. You know, there's a need for it out there if your clients are already telling you that they need it. So that's awesome.
Right. That's right. We're appreciative.
Melissa, you know, ActiveComply has been a great supporter of the California MBA, for which we are very, very grateful. Thank you so much for that. But love to have you share with our listeners why you value the importance of the association and why you're involved with us.
So ActiveComply is actually involved with a number of state MBAs and trade associations, and we're really thankful for those relationships, but we do have a soft spot for the California MBA. We're really appreciative of some of the foundational work your team has done to help us be successful. Sometimes it's little things like the website is crisp and clean and easy to navigate. The conferences that we go to in person are tremendously successful. The content displayed there is relevant. We were just talking about ChatGPT maybe being on the docket for the upcoming legal issues conference in December. So I'm personally excited for that. I also know that the CMBA brings in maybe regulatory speakers who normally wouldn't feel comfortable going to some other conferences in our industry, but they feel really safe and secure to come to the CMBA conference and answer the hard questions, because I think they too feel supported. One of our team members, Blake, I think is on one of the committees at the CMBA, and so we really feel heard about what would be important to us and what we'd love to see. And we think that it's a great relationship for collaboration overall.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And yes, join both the California MBA and ActiveComply in December for our Legal Issues and Reg Compliance Conference in beautiful Southern California. We'll see you then. Thank you, Melissa, for being on Connect. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And thanks to all of you for joining us today. To access any of our past episodes, you can follow us on our YouTube channel. We're also available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. That's it for this week, and we'll see you next time on Connect.